Steve here with another very simple FreeCAD video for amateurs. I want to apologize up front. I'm a little tongue-tied today, so I may stumble a bit, but I did want to get this done because I'll be using some of these concepts in a more involved video in a bit. So what we're going to deal with here in this is B-spline basics and symmetry in the sketcher. Oops, I misspelled spline. Oh well. Particularly, we're going to talk about how we constrain a B-spline and then how we mirror that B-spline across a center axis and then constrain the sketch. Okay, well, let's get started and talk about this. So here we are in FreeCAD 1.0. Let's create a body. Let's create a sketch in the XY plane. And let's go ahead and make the top and the bottom of this little box we're going to draw with the B-splines on the sides. So let's go ahead, give ourselves a line. You can tell off to the side that we've got a linear constraint, horizontal constraint, I should say. Let's go ahead and center this along the center axis. Hit escape to get out of the tool. Select the two control points, select the center line, and go to the constrain symmetric. Do this for the bottom as well. Constrain symmetric. Now we have to set the distance of these horizontal lines, and we will go to the constrain tool for dimension. Click on the line, move up. Click, let's make it 40, pull the tool down, click on the line, pull it down, make it 60, just making up these numbers by the way. And now we still have 2 degrees of freedom, which is anchoring one of these control points against the center point. So let's make it 30. Make it 20, and we now have 2 constrained horizontal lines. Now let's connect these 2 horizontal lines with a B-spline to talk about some very, very basic issues with B-splines. Of course, in B-splines you can buy control points, periodic B-spline. I tend to just use the B-spline by control points. So let's go ahead and start the B-spline at the bottom of the horizontal line, give myself a concentric constraint, come up, left click to make a control point, left click to make another control point, go up to the top line, get my symmetric constraint, coincident constraint, sorry, left click, right click to exit the tool. Okay, so now we have a B-spline. I'm going to hit escape to get out of the tool. And now we have to constrain this B-spline. We know that we've constrained it already to these control points. Now we have to constrain where these control points are going to be. So let's get it looking the way we want. Let's say, for example, like that. Now to constrain this, we have to constrain both of these control points. So let's go to the dimension tool. Sorry, what's it called now? Yes, the dimension tool. Go ahead and click one of the control points. By the way, I will tell you on a Mac, it doesn't always work with just the general, and sometimes you have to use specifics. But let's go ahead and make it 14. Now we want to make it the distance from this axis. Let's call it 16. Click on this. Set the distance from the horizontal axis. Well, okay, we'll do the vertical axis first and call it 11. Click again. Now we got to make it the distance from the x-axis. When I was able to do that, see here, make it 5. All right, so now we have a fully constrained B-spline that is attached to the top and the bottom of the object. So now we want to make an exact duplicate of this B-spline across the midline. However, you'll notice my B-spline might look different than yours. That's because if you go to Sketch, Sketch or Visual, Show Hide B-spline information layer, you can actually tell it what you wish it to hide. Oh, I got to get out of this tool first, sorry. I was in the tool. You have to get out of the tool so you can access the... So you'll see there's the comb. You can get rid of it by going to Sketch, Sketch or Visual, Show Hide B-spline information leveler, and then just go ahead and I usually hide the comb, okay? Now this is a pretty complicated looking picture with all of these measurements. You may want these measurements to go away. What's the easy way to do that? Well, quite simply, over here in the combo view, on constraints, click the eyeball. Look what goes away. Very simple way to clean up your image while you're working on it. Okay? So we don't actually need these now. So I'm going to take them away because what we want to do is to bring this over here and constrain it exactly. So let's go ahead and use the Symmetry tool. So I've clicked on the B-spline. I'm going to go here to the Symmetry tool, click on it, move my cursor to the y-axis, and click. And now we have cloned a copy across the y-axis. But look over here. It's under constrained by 8 degrees of freedom. Why so many degrees of freedom? Well, there's a couple of reasons for this. You might think there's no problem. If we close this and we try to pad it, it will pad. But that's not optimal because, as you know, you always want to decrease your degrees of freedom. And there may be times and places when you can't pad it because look at this. When you, in fact, mirrored this, watch, you did not create a coincident constraint. What you can't do is simply highlight and hit coincident constraint because trust me, it won't work well. So go ahead, move it out of the way, click your both points, and then use the constrained coincident. And now you see we've dropped to 6. Down here you can see it's already moved. Click both points, constrained coincident. Now we're down to 4 degrees of freedom. Now these 4 degrees of freedom are actually represented that when the line was mirrored, the position of these are not fixed. So in fact, look, you can move them. So what you now have to do is to create symmetrical constraints between this point and this point, this point and this point. And there's many ways to do that, but interestingly enough, there is an easier, quicker way to do it. If you click the point, click this point, click the center line, the y-axis, and hit constrain symmetric, it actually brings them into line. Now what's interesting about this is that now you can't move it at all. You would think that it would only constrain it across the y-axis, but for some reason just doing the symmetry across the y-axis will lock both into position. So this, this, this. Now we have a fully constrained sketch. Of course, we could do it another way. So I'm going to back out of these constraints. Okay? We're back to 4 degrees of freedom. You might think that you could connect this point, and let's say then connect this point, that is the x-axis, and hit symmetry. Watch what happens. No idea why that happens. Command Z. When you try to do it against the x-axis, it doesn't work. You might think, well, I can select this point, I can select this point, and hit an equality constraint. That won't work because you can't have an equality constraint geometrically inside of 2 points in space. So you could, let me turn the eyeball back on, you could, of course, just simply copy these parameters. And that may be what you have to do, but what I have found is that by doing it the way that I suggested, which is to select your control points, the y-axis line, control points, y-axis, that you can actually now get a fully constrained sketch. So you could then show hide all listed constraints and see what it looks like. Now you can hide, like I said, you can continue to hide more of your points once you've completed your sketch if you want to simplify your drawing. And to do that, once again, sketch your visual, show hide B-spline information, and get rid of the polygons. Okay? All right, well, that's kind of what I wanted to show you here. And that's it for this video. All right, thanks.